Good day to you, Sir Jet, and to our classmates. And today we are discussing about the three normative models of democracy according to Jurgen Habermas. So before we discuss the three normative models of democracy, we must first introduce ourselves about the two received views of democratic politics, or the views of the liberal and the republican in terms of politics, civil society, and citizen status. So first is about the politics, the both views of liberal and republican politics. According to the liberal or the Lockean view, the democratic process accomplishes the task of programming the government in the interest of society, where the government is represented as an apparatus of public administration and society as market-structured network of interaction among private persons. So, the in the Lockean view or the liberal view, the government serves as an agent to which the private persons, the individual of the polis or the city or the state, is protected. So the government serves as a system that protects the private interests of the individual persons in the society. That is according to the liberal view. In the Republican view, however, politics involves more than this mediating function. It is rather constitutive for the process of society as a whole. So in the Republican view, the state is, or the the state is the people. So for the Republican, the people is are not just individuals that are protected by the government, but the people is what constitutes the government. So next is the civil society to be discussed by Carlo.
In terms of civil society, so for the liberal view, it is an autonomous basis in civil society where a basis independent of public administration and market-mediated private commerce is assumed as a precondition for the praxis of civic self-determination. So this basis preserves political communication from being swallowed up by the government apparatus or assimilated to market structures. However, in the Republican conception, the political public sphere acquires, along with its base in civil society, a strategic significance. These competing approaches yield two contrasting images of the citizen.
So in the liberal standpoint, uh, public administration is mediated by the market, which is the lifeblood of a state or the commerce. So the basically whatever the market, whatever the environment of the market can or will influence the state. In the Republican aspect, in the Republican point of view, this with this view, the economy or the market has significance, but it creates two-way images of the citizen. So there is the economic view of the citizen and the political view of the citizen. So there are the citizens are seen as two entities, while in the liberal, it's the market that creates the environment for the political state of affairs. Next is about the citizen status.
So, according to the liberal view, the citizen status is primarily determined according to negative rights. They have vis the state and other citizens. As bearers of these rights, they enjoy the protection of the government. As long as they pursue their private interest, within the boundaries drawn by legal status. And according to the Republican view, the status of citizens is not determined by a model of negative liberties to which the citizens can lay claim as private persons.
So, from what I understand in the liberal view, is that it is the same as the view of the liberals in politics. So, the government is only an agent that protects the private interests of the citizen that is drawn by legal statutes, or therefore there are laws uh, enforced or institute as a means to protect the individual person from one another. So this here we see that the primary function of the law is to protect individual liberties. So one analogy is this: uh, we are free, but we are not free to invade the freedom of others. So freedom means being free at a certain boundaries. So the entity or the system that enforces that boundary is the government. But in the Republican view, the status of the citizens is not determined by the model of negative liberties to which these citizens can lay claim as private persons. So the status of the citizen is not determined according to negative rights. So the status of the citizen is not shall we say, not dictated by another by the limitations of other. Uh, Furthermore, another viewpoint of the the democratic politics, which is the liberal and the republican, is that in the liberal view, the political process of opinion and will formation in the public sphere and in parliament is determined by the competition of strategically acting collectives trying to maintain or acquire positions of power. And yet, according to the Republican view, the political opinion and will formation occurring in this public sphere in the parliament obeys not the structures of market processes, but the obstinate structures of public communication oriented to mutual understanding. So, here we go again to the received view of the liberals and the Republican. So we'll go back to the basics of the liberal or Lockean view that the government serves as an entity that protects the individual rights of the people. So here the process of opinion or the will formation of the public sphere, meaning the creation of or the normative or the normal or the status quo, the formation of the status quo is determined by the competition of strategically acting collectives. So it's more of systems of the government from economics to politics influencing each other. But in the Republican view, hence the word Republican, meaning it is something that is decided collectively by argument or by speeches. The public sphere is, as we can see in the state in the Philippines that we are a republic, the Senate creates the environment for the private sectors or the individual persons to thrive, or in simpler terms, there is a body that governs or creates these public opinions or the will formation in the public sphere. So just like in the Philippines, there's the Senate and there's the lower house and the upper house. And another views of or another explanation
So
is
to add to what Logroño said, in the liberal view, success is measured by the citizens' approval, quantified as votes of persons and programs. In their choices at the polls, voters give expression to their preferences. Their voting decisions have the same structure as the acts of choice made by participants in a market. They license access to the positions of power that political parties fight over in the same success-oriented attitude. While in the Republican view, for politics in the sense of a praxis of civic self-legislation, the paradigm is not the market but dialogue. This dialogue conception imagines politics as contestation over questions of value and not simply questions of preferences. So, overall, this means that in the liberal view, um, the people of the citizen has the right or has the freedom to either choose, either he will follow the norms or the the way kanang normal nga one in the liberal view. However, in the Republican view, it is not matter it it does matter if it is your preference or not, as long as what the society think think what
Decided or
decided nga
what the
unsa jud ilang value, kung what the society think nga valuable, then those motoy sundon.
which is evident also in the Philippine government.
Yes.
Next to be discussed is about the proceduralist and the communitarian views of politics.
So, according to the Republican model as compared to the liberal, one has the advantage that it preserves the original meaning of democracy in terms of the institutionalized of a public use of reason jointly exercised by autonomous citizens. Another is in its communitarian interpretation, the Republican model is too idealistic even without the limits of purely normative analysis.
So, in the Republican model, compared to the liberal one, it is understood as preserving the original meaning of democracy. So, in the ancient Greece, especially Athens, they have invented the democracy. Uh, the public use of reason, or they have this system called the agora, or something that the elder people decides what is the fate of the polis. So in this council of elders, they have one magistrate, which is the archon, and this archon is simply is a figurehead to the entire polis, but the power remains to the common people. So in Republican model, it is the same. It is more or less the same format, but especially nowadays, the countries, the polis has become more and more massive. So it is impossible to generate or to collect the opinions of all people around the polis or around the country in order to decide if whether or not it is decided that for example, a country must go to war. So it is hard and tiresome, almost impossible to create a unified collection of data in order to pass an action in the country. So the Republican model instead created this system that the autonomous citizens, or the citizens, would vote for a figurehead that would represent the majority of the people. So, for example, the senators. So the senators decides. They are not us, but they represent the people. we are not the Senate, but there are peoples that represent us in the Senate. So, in its communitarian interpretation, the Republican model is too idealistic, even within the limits of purely normative analysis. So, in the communitarian viewpoint, the Republican model is too idealistic or too impossible, or sometimes or too hard or nearly impossible to even realize. So, another is, according to the communitarian view, there is a necessary connection between the deliberative concept of democracy and the reference to a concrete, substantively integrated ethical community. Otherwise, one could not explain in this view how the citizens' orientation to the common good would be at all possible. So, as we have understand, the there is, according to the communitarian, there is a necessary connection between the concepts of democracy and the ethical community. So, meaning the the idea of democracy should have a concrete or a direct have a direct or it is influenced directly and concretely by by ethical aspects. So,
in order for the common good to
Oh.
be possible.
so so it realizes the ultimate or the most or the common good that is we cannot please everyone. So, in the communitarian view, there should be an ethical framework that grounds the idea of democracy, so that it can acquire the best possible decision the state should decide. And then, in contrast to the ethical constriction of political discourse, the concept of deliberative politics acquires empirical reference only when we take account of the multiplicity of the cumulative forms of rational political will formation. So, we try to this phrase is heavily or condensed with political jargon. So, let us discuss this, if possible, word for word. So, in contrast to the ethical constriction of the political discourse, so in an opposite view to the ethical standards of political dialogue, the concept of deliberative politics acquires empirical reference. So, the concept of the politics acquires empirical, which is comes from experience. So, the deliberative politics or the politics that is deliberate or with intentions acquires data from experience only when we take account the multiplicity of cumulative forms of rational political will formation. So, here we can see that it is this the concept of deliberative politics should grasp some empirical only when there is a multitude of persons or individual that is having an argument, or let's say discussing what is what is the next best course of action politically. So, in simpler terms, it is that the decision of a state should arise when multiple people is discussing the course of action of a police or state.
So another point is, it is also it doesn't matter on ethical, but it is on deliberative politics. So politics conceive a syndrome that depends on a network of fairly regulated bargaining processes and a various forms of argumentation. including pragmatic, ethical, and moral discourses. So, a great example here is the personality of our ex-president, ex-president, former president Duterte. No, if we look in his personality as a leader, political leader, perhaps many people would say that he is not ethically kanang pasar ana kung kan. However, what matter most is his personality and how he deal, how he do his arguments, how he does unsa niya pagpadagan ang panggobyerno, and mo nay murag mas gi-appreciate sa mga tao. So mo nay I think one of perhaps an example nga pwede nato ibutang diring sa maong kwan kaning statement. Okay.
So, in legislative politics, the supply of information, and the rational choice of strategies interwoven with the balancing of interest. So there should have a balance of interest with the achievement of ethical self-understanding and the articulation of strong preferences with moral justification and test of legal coherence. Thus, dialogically and instrumental politics, the two ideal types which Frank Michelman has opposed in a polarizing fashion, do in fact interpenetrate in the medium of deliberations of various kinds.
So in legislative or the legal or the the formation of laws or rules, the supply of information. So it needs empirical information, or not necessarily empirical information, but some data that it needs the interaction between the supply of information, the data, and the individual interest of the lawmaker. So there should be there should be a research on if a law is indeed viable in or relevant in the community, but it needs also to have the conviction or the interest of the lawmaking person. So, as I said before, the legal state in here in the Philippines is bicameral. So there is two houses that discusses the law. So in that houses, in that readings and formulation of laws, there are multiple lawmaking persons that sometimes counteracts or supports what the law is. So some perspective or some optic should be some persons would view a law as unconstitutional, but it is only from their personal interest, not with the data. So it should be that a law, or in legislative politics, a law should have a supply of information. So it should be there should be research that is made into making laws, and also a strong preference of the majority of the lawmaking body. So there is a interwoven, or there is an interaction between both rational and the personal of the lawmaking process on the person that in the legislative person. So so next is the three images of the state and society. So both liberal and republican model presuppose a view of society as centered in the state, be it the state as a guardian of a market society or the state as a self-conscious institutionalization of ethical community. So, according to the liberal view, the democratic process takes place exclusively in the form of compromising between competing interests. So, as said before, the liberals believe that the state is a guardian of a market society, so capitalism. Uh, to the liberal view, democratic process takes place exclusively in the form of compromises between competing interests. So it should be protected that there is something, uh, some sort of dialectic, it's a term of dialectic. So a compromise between two competing interests, a thesis and an antithesis of interest, and the compromises between them is the democratic process. So the in the liberal view, it's very dialectical. So both interests, competing interests, they compete, they negate each other, and the compromise between them, the similarities or what is left between them is where the democratic process takes place.
In the democratic process of the liberal view, um, fairness is expected, and every right and action should be justified, like in the decisions and everything, it should be justified, and either you are right or wrong, kailangan ma-justify. Next, according to the Republican view, democratic will formation takes place in the form of an ethical political discourse. Here, deliberation can rely on a culturally established background consensus shared by the citizenry.
So we go back to the form of the liberal view at the first received views of democratic politics, that the republic should arise. The democratic processes of the republic should arise in ethical political discourse. Hence, the Senate or the legislative body. So here, the deliberations or the decisions that is taken upon by the state can rely on a culturally established background consensus shared by the citizenry. So, as said before, it is something like a figurehead, or there is representatives from the people. So, the deliberation, the political willpower of the state could and can rest upon the persons in the legislative body.
According to this proceduralist view, practical reason withdraws from universal human rights or from the concrete ethical substance of a specific community into the rules of discourse and forms of argumentations.
So that means it is merely the same on the Republican view as mentioned before, because it doesn't matter if either it is on it is based or nakasaad sa universal law or universal human rights. It doesn't matter as long as it is been followed by this particular group, as long as this has been followed by this particular group, then those rules, those guidelines or ordinances are followed.
So in the proceduralist view, it is somewhat a utilitarian approach. So it concerns itself with the not universal, but the common good, or the best possible good, or the most efficient way to do things. So it withdraws from the universal human right, because sometimes when things are we are we are torn between two decisions. Sometimes in a proceduralist view, sometimes it is better to decide to decide that which is more efficient. So let me introduce you to the trolley problem, which states that if you were to decide, there is a trolley or a train that coming towards you, and you have to decide whether to divert the train. Before that, the train tracks has people in it. So the left train tracks have 5 people, and in the train track has a singular person. So you have to decide. So in the utilitarian view, you must save those who are in the majority. Hence, it is the most efficient. So in the it's the same as the proceduralist view, that there's deliberations or sacrifices to be made in order to have a inefficient ordinances.
According to the Republican view, the citizen's political opinion and will formation forms the medium through the society constitutes itself as a political whole.
Society is
Society is from the very start political society, but on the other hand, according to the liberal view, it cannot be eliminated but only bridged by the democratic process.
so in the Republican view, the citizens is placed at the heart of the state. So the society constitutes itself as a political whole, societas civilis, or civil society. This puts the population or the citizens as the constitution of the state. So from the Republican view, it is the people that governs themselves, or the society needs government. But on the other hand, the liberal view, it cannot be eliminated but only bridged by the democratic process. So in the Republican, we go back to the Republican, the political opinion and the will formation is or forms the medium. So it is through the citizens' political opinion and will formation that the society constitutes itself as a political whole. So the democratic processes is or was a defining factor that creates the society as a political society. But on the other hand, the liberal view is that the political opinion and rule formation cannot be removed from society itself. So it is not a medium, but it is a part of society itself, but only bridged by democratic processes. So with it is we can see the political opinion and will formation through democratic processes. Discourse theory invests the democratic process with normative connotations stronger than those found in liberal model, but weaker than those of the Republican model.
So this means that the democratic process can be can be found. The strongest democratic process is can is found in the Republican. Next followed by discourse theory, where it invests, and the last one is the liberal model. The liberal model where the democratic process can be found.
So this view has implications for how one understands first legitimation and second popular sovereignty. On the liberal view, democratic will formation as exclusive function of legitimating the exercise of political power. Election results are the license to assume governmental power, whereas the government must justify the use of power to the public. On the Republican view, democratic will formation has significantly stronger function of constitutional society as political community and keeping the memory of this founding act alive with each election. The government is not only empowered to exercise a largely open mandate, but also programmatically committed to carry out certain policies. So in the liberal view, legitimation arises when the government or the the governmental the persons elected in the government shows or can justify its actions through the use of the power of the public. So there is the Liberal Party in the Philippines, which is which are termed Dilawan. They have the it is exemplary of how legitimation is seen by the liberals. So in the EDSA revolution, which is primarily pushed or primarily driven by liberals, is that Marcos's regime or the government of Marcos does not have legitimate power because they do not exercise proper power to the public. So in the liberal view, it is only legitimate when the power given to you is only used for good. While in the Republican view, the democratic formation has a stronger function of constitutional society as political community. So as I understand, in the Republican view, the the government should not prove itself as legitimate. Rather, they are legitimate because they are the government. So it is not only weighed upon or something that it is not only given to you, but it serves as a justification to exercise the power of the government. So instead of justifying that, instead of getting legitimating that that you have power in the Republican view. The government is legitimate and thus should exercise power rather than you should exercise power because you're good. It is the other way around. You should exercise power because you have been elected to office. Next is the concept of popular sovereignty stems from the Republican appropriation and reevaluation of the early modern notion of sovereignty initially associated with absolutist regimes. So, in the concept of popular sovereignty from the Republican, no, no. From what I understand in this statement is that popular sovereignty is originated from the Republican appropriation. So it is the result of the evolution of the notion of sovereignty that is now in the Republican sense. So absolutist regimes. So absolutist regimes like the monarchy or the totalitarian. So this concept of popular sovereignty is an evolution. The concept of the Republican popular sovereignty is an evolution from the notion of sovereignty from the absolutist regimes. In this regard, the discourse theoretic reading of democracy has a point of contact with the detached sociological approach that considers the political system neither the peak nor the center, nor even the formative model of society in general, but just one action systems among others. In other hand, politics must still be able to communicate through the medium of law. With all the other legitimately ordered spheres of action, however, this happens to be structured and steered. So in the end, the these images of the society and politics is is a part of a bigger picture, which is the society as a whole. So, it is just a hand or one action system among all others. So we must not, in the end, politics must still abide with the law. So it cannot be separated. It cannot be separated from the Constitution. So to sum things up, to summarize, these views are only a perspective in how democracy works through the how democracy works or how should democracy works in the state. So it's either you're a liberal or a Republican. It does not matter if you do not abide with the law. So this theory, these perceptions, in the end, politics must still be able to communicate through the medium of law. So that is all. Thanks for listening.